This week on the Virtual Skeptics, Bob will never forget where he was when he heard that Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. Wow, that was a mouthful. Eve is spoiled for choice, and Tim thinks Food Babe Way, thanks, that's really easy to say, is the wrong way. I'm your host, Brian Gregory, and this episode has been brought to you by Jeff Goldblum's Laugh.
Jeff Goldblum's Laugh.
Yes.
We just want to feel a little kicked out. Yeah.
No.
That might be our first Jeff Goldblum impression.
Yes.
I know it seems hard to imagine.
No. Okay, fine. Welcome. This is the Virtual Skeptics.
What is it?
Let me do this again. Welcome to the Virtual Skeptics. This week on the show, Bob Blaskiewicz, Seaside's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities and Skepticality contributor, Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptics. Sorry about that. Editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities and contributor to Skepticality and Insight at skeptic. I said that Insight without an S. I added an S. I'm sorry. At skeptic.com. And finally, Tim Farley, blogger at Skeptools and Insight without an S. And skeptic.com, Skepticality contributor, what's the harm? And JREF, wow, all this other stuff that I say every week, and that's him.
You think you would have it memorized by now?
Yes.
Or at least be able to read it.
That too.
So, this is our show.
Watch it, don't piss off the host, Steve. You can toss us out of here.
Yes, so this is a show. Thanks for watching. To get involved with this shenanigans, you can tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics, and we'll pay attention to those. If you use the Q&A app and ask a question that we can tag in the video, we may put you on the show as well. And there's another one. Let's comment on the YouTube channel. I don't think anybody does that anymore. So if you do that, we'll try to pay attention. But we are getting old. At least I am. Let's see. Now what? Oh, we got the stuff and the other stuff at the place. With thing. Yes. Every week we do a couple of things. One of them is stare at you. Second is we do a trivia question, and Tim has got that now.
Yes, and last week we had an easy one, so this week I came up with a hard one.
What is it, Tim?
Very famous book, known to many skeptics as pseudoscience, long debunked. But you may not know that that book was originally written to be a response to and a takedown of one of Sigmund Freud's last books. You would never know that based on what it's ostensibly about.
Wow.
But it was a response to Sigmund Freud. What famous skeptically debunked book of pseudoscience was originally written to debunk Sigmund Freud?
Yeah, and when I saw this question, I thought, you're just in retaliation from the easy question last time, aren't you?
Yes.
Because this one seems a bit tough to me.
That was
but
exactly what I did.
I am not going to underestimate our 8 viewers.
Somebody will get it.
Somebody will get it and tweet it, and we will congratulate them here. This week, I actually have 2 videos behind me, and they're not just stock footage. They are trailers for movies, and they should be pretty easy. So if you get those, I will thank you. There you go.
There will be much admiration.
There will be tons of admiration and stuff. What? Go what? What?
Nothing. I just thought I saw nothing. Kind of a giveaway.
Leprechauns again. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I did say they were easy.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had a chance in a few weeks.
Because you just stopped caring.
I just no, not that. The other things. And no, it's not Dianetics. I just saw that. It's not Dianetics. This.
Would have been my guess, though.
Because I know everyone has been waiting for for the latest news.
Yeah, we're way behind on the
Machines
robots.
that are gonna kill you. They're gonna kill you. And they're not Greek. Never mind. That was a bad reference. First up, the story of the week. Everyone's been talking about this. It's been all over Facebook. And all the news sources that I care about. This is a picture from a Korean newspaper of a woman being saved from her hair-eating robot. It's not a Roomba. It's a Roomba-like. It's like a Roomba knockoff. It's one of those floor vacuum cleaners. And apparently,
it doesn't have a safety.
Apparently, this 50-year-old woman in South Korea was asleep on her floor, and she woke up with this Roomba-like floor vacuum cleaner eating her hair. She apparently had to call the fire department, and they had to rescue her from this thing.
And they just had to take a picture.
Well, it's South Korea. They don't. I don't know. What do they do in South Korea? I don't know.
I thought it was
I wish
to fall asleep with the fan on.
I know. I was just gonna make a fan death joke.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that would have been.
Move the robot.
That's true. So, actually, a couple of sites reported on this, and iRobot, the maker of Roomba, did actually respond, saying that this was definitely. What? Go ahead. No. They said it's beginning. No. They said this is definitely not one of their robots. This is not a Roomba. They made a statement to the effect of, we test these things and have safety systems built into ours, such like, for example, that if it's lifted off the floor, it doesn't vacuum. The suction doesn't work, and I don't think the motors run. I think it has to be set on the floor. In this case, like, you look at the picture, it's upside down. It shouldn't be pulling on her hair if it was a Roomba. So, yeah, some knockoff Korean company, that's what they said. I think those exact words. No, it wasn't the exact words.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so do me a favor. If you're sleeping on the floor and you have a Roomba, well, if you sleep on the floor, use a pillow. Tie your hair up. Or, I don't know, sleep on something that's robot safe. Like, keep the robot a step down, because they don't know how to use steps yet. But there you go. Everybody went on, it's been, the joke has been all over Facebook about the robots rebelling. And, I'm sorry, I know you're looking forward to it, but it's not quite there yet. Next story that's also from this week is the latest from our good friends at Boston Dynamics. This one, let's see if I can start the video.
I believe you're going to show us a robot that can climb stairs. I'm just saying.
Yes, this one can climb stairs.
Yes. But
it's on its way to Korea right now.
There it goes. This is the latest in the walking quadruped robots that Boston Dynamics make. This one is a little smaller variation on the big dog. It does have the same kind of walking. Don't kick the robot. It has the same walking system that all the other ones do with the quadruped and the self-righting system, and it uses some similar sensors like that spinning laser direction finder. Actually, it's a distance sensor on the top. It looks a little more agile, and if you watch the video online, the main thing that's different between this is it doesn't sound like a swarm of bees.
Yeah.
It sounds more like, like there on a couple of the articles online have referred to it as a dentist drill, which is, for some of us, more terrifying than a swarm of bees, I guess. I don't know. But this is using, and actually Boston Dynamics has confirmed, this is using some of the power subsystem changes that they made for the new Atlas. One of the stories I was going to cover in a previous week, which is that they have a new version of the Atlas robot. Atlas robot is the humanoid platform they were using for the DARPA challenge. I think I did talk about that like two or 3 weeks ago. But one of the things that they've changed is they're using a battery system to power the hydraulic pumps instead of a gasoline engine. So, that was the main source of noise in the previous one. And apparently they've worked the system so that it doesn't actually degrade its longevity and its ability to carry, there's a bunch of different factors that will be affected by the amount of power, and apparently they figured out a way to, at least for this one, which is actually smaller and more agile, and intended for indoors. So, it can climb stairs, it can go indoors, it can sneak up on you if you're, working at a dentist office. That was a joke. So there you go. Something else to be afraid of, and it does have a vacuum attachment.
Oh.
Which is, the only way the robots know how to attack us right now. I don't know.
Sucking you? Is that how it does it? By sucking you?
Yes, by sucking your hair.
After themselves.
Does it have like a steam attachment so you could send it to Gwyneth Paltrow?
I don't think so.
Oh.
And of course, that would be one of the reasons for the robots to hate us even more in the future.
No, they just see it more
Paltrow and
as an uprising, but as a mercy killing.
Yeah. I don't think they would do that for us.
Yeah.
Okay, one more quickie. This one I was going to talk about last week, but I didn't have time. Apparently, everyone has seen the hype videos from Amazon about their possible drone delivery. Oh, that's really far away. The FAA is not even on the hook until this year to get the law. They're working their way through it, but to get the laws straightened out so that drones can be used by non-government entities and for general purpose. Right now, it kind of falls within some of the areas that hobbyists use, certain distance from airports and special targets, and there are altitude restrictions and things like that. But most of that is not fully fleshed out in law in our country yet. But apparently, there's a company, a couple of companies working together in China to do drone delivery of tea. Here's a picture of one of their drones with a package on it. Let's see here. This is a company called Alibaba Group Holding Limited, and they're cooperating with Shanghai YTO Express Logistics. Very short, catchy names. And they're going to deliver ginger tea packets to 450 Chinese customers who volunteered for a one-time drone test. So this is a one-time kind of let's try this out kind of test, and it's in and around Beijing. One of the example delivery routes is to their World Trade Center, which the delivery the facility they're delivering from is on the outskirts of town. And it's supposedly going to fly in via human. They're going to actually have human pilots. So I don't even know how they're going to do this because it's a long way. Are they going to follow with a car, or are they going to be in an airplane? I don't know how they're going to be able to see this and guide it in. But the idea is that they will deliver the package, and there'll be like a person there to take it from the drone and go up in the buildings or wherever else, deliver them on the last leg. So it doesn't sound that sexy that way, but it is kind of a good publicity stunt, and maybe you'll see drone delivery someday, but chances are it'll be in another country first. They have the only laws that I know of, and this is just from the articles I read online, is that pilots of these things have to be identified, kind of like licensing in China. But other than that, they don't have restrictions like we do on where they can use them. I'm sure that they will if this becomes wide use, because there will be problems. But there you go. Amazon's been scooped by China.
How many are going to be taken out by birds of prey? Because if I've learned anything from the internet, it's that birds of prey freaking hate drones.
Yeah.
That's true. It really depends on whether they sound like a swarm of bees or a dentist drill. I don't know. One last small thing for anyone out there who is has a tendency to hack things or has some kind of technical bent. available. Actually, this has been up for a couple of weeks now. But if you want to learn about artificial intelligence, the stuff that's real and's been around since the 80s, or actually a little earlier than that, there is UC Berkeley has put their 100 level, so CS 188, Computer Science 188. So it's a undergraduate level course on artificial intelligence, Introduction to Artificial Intelligence, online on their website that anyone can sign up and take for free. If you're into that kind of stuff, or you just want to know what it's about, if you want to know a little bit about how robots will figure out the optimal trajectory to kill multiple people without traveling the farthest distance, the traveling salesman problem, if anybody wants to know. Never mind. Those kinds of things. It's interesting. It's got some good reviews. It's done by Professor Klein from UC Berkeley. Supposedly I haven't seen the course yet, but I'm going to check it out just because, for fun. But I've already taken this kind of stuff. But yeah, so I will link that in the show notes if anybody wants to find out and learn how smart the robots really are, and whether or not you can outsmart them in order to survive longer when the end comes, to vacuum your hair away. There you go. Do we get any questions? Let's see here. Small, big dog, gas or electric? It is electric. It is still hydraulic. All of the joints are hydraulic. It's called Spot, which is cool. I like the name Spot. But it's the same hydraulic system in the other ones, but it's now powered by an electric motor as opposed to a gas engine, which is the main difference as far as I could tell. That and a smaller chassis.
Has anybody ever
specs on that?
figured out why Google wants to own this company? What they're going to do with these robots?
Well, there's speculation. There's a little bit of speculation about the latest one because it's smaller and quieter and a little bit more spry. The speculation is that this might be some kind of urban delivery system.
That would. I don't know.
Yeah.
That seems.
Well, I mean, they currently have in like hospitals and places where this is important. They have robots that deliver medication. I mean, it's not far-fetched that you could have a robot that would.
Why would you need one that's in the form of a tap-dancing dog?
I like the idea of it as a mailman because how will the dogs react? We know they hate mailmen.
The dogs might help carry the mail.
Like they're trying
a whole new frontier for
pipe.
dog delivery hatred.
Yeah, they'll be so confused they won't know what to do.
This seems
but it's a dog. I don't know.
It seems to me to be a refinement of the original. Making it smaller, making it lighter. It seems to be a natural progression.
Right.
Yes. Well, I'm waiting for the attack dog version that's powered on a fusion reactor.
Right.
Which is a Snow Crash reference, if anybody got
really
that.
That its little friend got kicked so much.
That's true. That was the other thing that people were talking about online is that there's a couple of spots in that video where people are deliberately trying to kick it over, and it recovers very well. But still, because we see it as having behavior of a living creature, I can't help but having that kind of empathy response that, like, why did you kick the dog, man?
Right.
But I actually talked about this once last year. There was a couple of studies about humans' response to robots or robot-like technology that has kind of some kind of animal-like or human-like behavior. We can't help but assign some of the same feelings we do to other animals and humans to these devices that look that way. So, yeah, they will kill us because we will think that they're cute. And they'll kill us anyway. There you go. Yes, the fourth law, really quick, the fourth law of robotics is self-loathing. I don't think so. No, I don't think that worked. That was Mark Price on Twitter. Moving on. Who's next?
It's me.
Yes, Bob is next. Bob, why are you wearing your Unabomber outfit to this show?
because my hair does a weird thing, this is just easier.
Okay.
But yeah, so this week we had a phenomenal opportunity to teach a lot of people a little bit of humility about what you know and what you think you know. But it was squandered. This week after Brian Williams took a retiring helicopter pilot to Madison Square Garden for an NBC-sponsored event, the pilot was applauded in front of 18,000 people at Madison Square Garden. Brian Williams introduced him, and he was retiring with like 3 Bronze Stars or something. As part of the proceedings, Williams told a story that he's told many times, that during the invasion of Iraq, as an embedded reporter, on March 23rd, 2003, he was on a helicopter that was hit by an RPG in Iraq. He told this story in 2013, and he said even in January, I think in the context of this person retiring, quote, "The story actually started with a terrible moment a dozen years back during the invasion of Iraq when the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG. Our traveling NBC News team was rescued, surrounded, and kept alive by an armored mechanized platoon from the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry." There was another version of the story in 2007 that said that the RPG had been fired at his helicopter but had hit the one in front of his. Well, when this went out, other people in the helicopter didn't remember it that way, and they said so online. According to one engineer who was on the flight with, one engineer said, "Sorry, dude," this is Lance Reynolds. Bring up the image, please. "Sorry, dude, I don't remember you being on my aircraft. I do remember you walking up about an hour after we landed to ask me what had happened. Then I remember you guys taking back off in a different flight of Chinooks from another unit and heading to Kuwait to report your war story to the nightly news. The whole time we were still stuck in Iraq trying to repair the aircraft and pulling our own security." And so, yeah, this story is slightly different. According to the members of the 159th Aviation Regiment's Chinook, who were interviewed in Stars and Stripes, has been the group that Williams was with. Williams and his camera crew were actually aboard a Chinook in a formation that was about an hour behind the 3 helicopters that came under fire, according to crew member interviews. That Chinook took no fire and landed later beside the damaged helicopter due to an impending sandstorm from the Iraqi desert, according to Sergeant First Class Joseph Miller, who was the flight engineer on the aircraft that carried the journalists. Okay, so this came out, and Stars and Stripes broke it. It's the military's. I don't know. Is it just the Army, or is it across the military?
What's the question?
Stars and Stripes.
Stars and Stripes.
Sorry. The newspaper?
We're all military.
It's military, yeah.
All military. Okay. Because I just remember seeing old World War II stuff with lots of Army things in it, but I didn't know. Anyway, they broke the story. They interviewed these people, and on February 4th, Williams apologized on air, saying that he, quote, "made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago." He also said, quote, "I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. I just said that he said that, but I forgot, because memory is malleable. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women of the air crews who are also in the desert. I hope they know they have my greatest respect, and now my apology." And the result was nothing but complete outrage. Subsequently, the narrative that's flying around the internet right now, it's that Williams lied, and basically everything that he's ever said is now open to question. People are questioning whether or not anything that has ever made him look good or was dramatic or spoken by him could possibly be true. And actually, I think it's kind of interesting to note that as they're looking for this, they're coming up mostly empty-handed. So yesterday, a decision came down from NBC Muckety Mucks that Williams was getting a 6-month suspension without pay. According to a letter released by the NBC News president, Deborah Turnus, quote, "While on nightly news on Friday, January 30th, 2015, Brian misrepresented events which occurred while he was covering the Iraq War in 2003. It then became clear that on other occasions Brian had done the same while telling that story in other venues. This was wrong and completely inappropriate for someone in Brian's position. Brian. And then this little bitch...
I swear I didn't do it.
Yeah. This has been a painful period for all concerned, and we appreciate your patience while we gathered the available facts. By his actions, Brian has jeopardized the trust of millions of Americans placed at NBC News. His actions are inexcusable, and this suspension is severe and appropriate. Now,
I apologize now for all Brian's than I.
Yes, as well you should. And
The why they speak for themselves.
This is very strange. So what exactly happened? People are calling for blood. Stars and Stripes. I was looking at their. I'm kind of disgusted with their coverage of this. When they reported on his apology, they say that there's a report in the NBC archive that says, with the headline that Brian Williams attacked while in Iraq or something like that, or shot at in a helicopter while he was in Iraq. But what they don't say is what the video actually says. When you look at it, when you look at the video clip that's been archived, which is reporting the incident, what you see is Tom Brokaw going to Williams, who I think is in like Kuwait City. And he says that Williams had, quote, a close call in the skies over Iraq. Williams was in a Chinook helicopter. There were stories among the air crew that there were Iraqis dressed as civilians who were opening fire on the helicopters, and they were locked and loaded on safety, but ready to engage in case that happened. He was on a resupply mission, hauling large pieces of bridge to I forget which town it was, but a town I think north of Baghdad. And they have footage out of the window of these towns and civilians out there who seem to be happy to see them. Then you have this we heard over the radio that that there were, well, we get to listen to some of the chatter that he heard while he was flying in this formation. Someone said, "We took fire on the way in. We're currently not under fire. Repeat, we're not under fire." So we hear that actually on the radio, as Williams probably would have heard in his headset. This is a helicopter that's taking fire while Williams' group is in the air. They drop off their supplies, the bridge material, and but then very shortly thereafter they're ordered down and not told why. If you could bring up the next image. Williams reports the Chinook ahead of them has been grazed by an RPG fired from the back of a pickup truck, they realize. And that's interesting because that kind of reinforces the idea that,
What are we looking at here?
I'm sorry?
What are we looking at?
That is the actual, what he filmed. This is a tear. An RPG penetrated the exterior of a helicopter. It didn't explode, and he says it's a helicopter in front of him.
Very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like it deflected. It doesn't look like it actually penetrated into it, but but regardless, someone really was shot when he landed in this spot in the desert that was unanticipated, right? There was a helicopter there that had been shot. When it arrived there, was it one, he was in the third of 4 helicopters. Was it one of those 2 ahead of him? Or was it, one that had landed a long time before? It doesn't say. but it was there, and he did see it. The other thing that's interesting is he said that the crew didn't grant him an interview, so he didn't get the full story. Now, after that, the helicopters are forced to hunker down for 2 days, as there was, in fact, a sandstorm coming through. An armored unit there from the 3rd Infantry coincidentally confirmed the image of the fighters that we've seen, irregulars popping out of the back of pickup trucks with machine guns. They say that they've seen this. This armored unit circles the helicopters and they're post guard basically, fighting along the perimeter, and then so they were grounded for 2 nights in the sandstorm. At the end of the report, Williams explains that towards the end of their first night, as dawn was coming, they heard machine gun fire. A group of Iraqi irregulars were stopped encroaching on this site with an RPG, presumably trying to get into position to shoot at the helicopters. One of which Williams was in fact sleeping in. So it's a 6-hour mission that became something like a 50-hour mission, is the way that they put it at the end there. We have, in this telling, all of the elements of what ultimately became Williams' final story, the one that got him in trouble. We have a plane with visible damage. We have it recorded. We have people on the ground protecting them. We have him actually in harm's way, it sounds like. If there was, in fact, a group of Iraqis encroaching on the perimeter with an RPG to shoot at him, he actually had Iraqis with RPGs intending to do him harm. Maybe not him individually, but he seems to have genuinely been in harm's way. So the idea that the story is a lie doesn't really hold up at face value. Because all the elements are there, he actually did a pretty good job of remembering all the elements. It's just the relationship to one another he didn't get right. So this can easily be explained by differences in memory, changes in memory. As we remember, we don't remember events in and of themselves. We remember basically our previous memories of it and of an event, and that changes over time with subsequent rememberings. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he thought that this was a seminal moment in his life where he was really scared or whatever, that he would have thought about it more and therefore would have had more opportunities to get it wrong. So I think that the careful analysis of this strongly suggests that this is just a memory that has kind of mutated a little bit, where he conflates 2 different helicopters, his and the one that he saw on the ground. That's not hard to do. That's an easy, understandable mistake, actually. I've had World War II vets tell me that they were stationed in units in Italy, and they're telling me that they were in the Battle of the Bulge. No, you weren't. But they'll tell you it. So
there's a psychologist named Chris French. He's currently at the University of London. I met him when he was in DC. Did a talk on false memories a couple years back, and he did a bunch of studies where he would show pictures to people and tell them that they were there, and they would generate on their own all the memories required to make that true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to generate false memories
and the more questions they asked about that, and the more it made them retell it, the more they believed that was true, and that what they had thought of was
from the very beginning with Williams. The first thing that Brokaw says is that Williams had, quote, a close call at the skies over Iraq, kind of prompting that the idea that he was directly in harm's way while he was in the sky. What isn't clear is how far ahead of him the helicopter that took the RPG round was, whether it was in his formation or was an hour later. But I can tell you, a lot of people are getting really angry at him, and
slipping me off. I'm just saying.
He's stealing valor from these veterans. I don't know why they're trusting the veterans' memories.
Yeah, I think that too.
Well,
They're veterans. Their memories are perfect. They're heroes, Bob.
See, that's the thing, and
a lot of this is the emotional investment in a lot of this stuff, and people get defensive when you challenge what people consider to be noble things that people have done. It's you don't challenge the memories of the soldiers because there's something to
in this
that,
case because you can see that they're wrong on
service,
on tape.
Yeah.
Brian Williams never said, he never reported as part of that I was under attack. He never made it sound like he was, doing something heroic or, he wasn't self-aggrandizing. He tried to keep himself out of it fairly well.
I think that plus the fact that his past has been looked into and it clearly he doesn't have a history of exaggerating or embellishing. And I think Craig Sachs in Twitter asked this: wouldn't an internal review in NBC reveal that he exaggerates and embellishes his stories? And clearly they have looked into it, and this is not something. It's out of character for him.
Right. Well, it would be out of character, but it's in character with humans telling stories off the cuff.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It sounds like I haven't seen the actual broadcast from the 30th when he said this on air. And okay, you can say it's inappropriate that he got something completely wrong on air without fact checking or vetting it. He is the chief editor of the show, so he should be up on it. But he was trusting his memory because how could you forget something like that? By misremembering, obviously. Yeah. Right. So you can say that. He didn't do due diligence in fact-checking himself, and that's, maybe what you should be doing if you're about to take something live on the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can say that he has lost the trust of a lot of people. However, the reason why they're losing the trust is they think that he's did this maliciously. NBC hasn't done anything to make it sound like it was anything less than intentional.
Well, yeah, and I think, I don't know. It seems to me that there's a lot of emotion wrapped into people being defensive of various aspects of this. That there really is no other way that a business in this
but
news,
a business whose job is to report facts.
No, that's not their job. That's not their job.
Responsibility.
Their job is to get ratings.
Huh?
Yeah.
Their job is to sell
No, you're absolutely right. That's what they're ultimately doing.
Yep.
But if they're going to do that, they don't, in my opinion, have the right to dress themselves as doing this for reasons of the truth. Right? Because if they were really to look into this, they would have memory experts saying, this type of thing happens all the time to everyone. Here's a study about 9/11. Here's a study about...
But they're covering their asses.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you expect them to do.
They're throwing him under the bus.
There's no incentive on their part to essentially fight culture and change it.
And by the way, shouldn't someone mention Elizabeth Loftus?
There is an incentive. It's just the problem is it's going to end up looking like they're trying to cover their ass. If you bring Elizabeth Loftus on, people, which would be the right thing to do, people are going to say, "Oh, they just got this expert woman on and to explain it away."
Yeah. And that's the thing. When you're an anchor, you trade on trustworthiness. When you're a reporter. One of the worst things you can do is fabricate. And it's absolutely like the worst thing you can do is fabricate a story.
No. The worst thing you do is get caught fabricating.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it matters if you can live with yourself. I see nothing here that suggests that he was
Yeah.
He's habitually deceitful.
Yeah.
You gotta know there's probably like several rooms of interns at different journalism organizations right now going over old tapes, just trying to find other things that he made mistakes on.
The other thing is that Stars and Stripes, I think they've kind of behaved dishonorably. One of the things they did was go back in the heat of this and run a story about Williams where he turned down, he reneged on a commitment to go do like some Medal of Honor affair to be on Saturday Night Live, which, kind of a thing to do, to a commitment that you've made, but then again, when you meet...
No, never mind. Go ahead. I was going to make a statement about Stars and Stripes, and I'm not going to do that.
Because they'll come after you next.
No, I just news organizations affiliated with the military have a special purpose.
Yes, they do.
Right.
And it's not necessarily informative.
The ombudsman was... They were very, very self-congratulatory about how well they'd handled themselves.
Yeah, I mean, there's a long history of news organizations affiliated with the military in many countries that their purpose is to support the military in various ways.
Right. So.
But I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that there's a precedent for that.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. But the way that I come to Stars and Stripes is thinking of how they were subversive early on. In the Second World War, for instance, they were a subversive thing. They were there supporting the troops, not necessarily the hierarchy. Maybe that's kind of what we're seeing here. They're supporting the troops, right? But it is at the expense of journalistic integrity in this case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think it boils down to that was pretty much the only thing they could do.
Yeah.
Given their position, and it's unfortunate that they couldn't have taken the opportunity with higher morals and higher ideals to stick
I would
with
love to see a little bit of self-reflection, because what you get at the end of the day, the people who are dancing around his funeral pyre are still prancing, unaware that their memories are just as crappy as everybody else's are.
Right.
And that's immensely frustrating to me. That's really what gets me. Because by doing this, they're reinforcing a misunderstanding of memory, and that.
Well, there are some outlets who are picking up on the story opportunity. I saw Elizabeth Loftus being interviewed on this very issue. I tweeted it on Sunday. I forget what site it was on, but somebody reached out to her and did a piece on it.
Yeah. So it's just kind of this. It's this weird moment where a little bit an understanding of people's natural limitations would explain a lot.
Right.
And people need to realize that in order to prove that someone is a liar, you need to have a special type of evidence. You can't speculate about what's going on inside someone else's head unless you have a special type of evidence. And making a mistake just isn't good enough to say that you know what's going on inside his head, that he's being deceitful.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks, Bob, for covering that. I'm going to switch over to Eve, because Eve's got a bunch of stuff to talk about. She's got a few things listed here. Why don't you go ahead and just dive in, because I can't summarize what you've got here. It's a bunch of stuff.
There are many things I thought about talking about this week. There's the extremely well-paid adjunct instructor, Melody Turkalacci, a former shot putter with a master's degree in sports sociology, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Huh.
She's teaching a Health 102 class at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. There are no textbooks or required course materials in the class. Just a bunch of slides like this one, if you could bring up the first slide, that say things like...
Maybe. Oh, there you go.
No scientific evidence exists showing vaccines are not contributing to increased incidence of chronic illness and disability in children.
Wow.
That's kind of awkwardly worded.
Mm-hmm.
Best.
Well, yes. But it gets worse, and there are links to stories about her, including her slides in the show notes. Then there was a neat story about the Magna Carta. Just recently, the 4 surviving original copies of the Magna Carta were brought together under heavy security at the British Library for an exhibition to celebrate the document's 800th anniversary this year. Actually, the anniversary is on June 15th to 12/15. Then only a few days after that, it was announced that a copy, circa 1300, had been found in a scrapbook in the town of Sandwich, Kent. There's a slide of this. So if you want to say, Magna Carta found in Sandwich, go ahead.
Magna Carta was found in
the side of this copy.
That's cool.
It comes up. You can see that it's badly damaged, and despite some sloppy stories, it's not original. It's one of about, I think, 24 reissues, but it's still cool.
Yeah.
But no, Ken Ham wasn't having any of it. He metaphorically jumped up and down and yelled, "I'm gonna let you finish," but answers in the Creation Ark Park Genesis Museum deserves this segment. So here we go. First,
Beyonce is in the story.
Ark Encounter. After Minnows, apparently Ark Encounter has broken ground. Yay.
Yay.
And the geniuses behind the project are suing the state of Kentucky, as they had promised to do. Yeah. Ark Encounter was expecting to receive tax incentives from Kentucky, keeping a portion of the sales tax they gather. And the justification for this went something like, we're a for-profit tourist business bringing business, and of course we'll follow all federal and state hiring guidelines, but we're not sure exactly how it's going to work yet. Oh, wait, we've decided we're eligible for a religious exemption and we can discriminate all we want. Nah, 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 nah. That's not an exact quote, but
what is
basically,
a legal word? Say that Nana thing.
There's a very special way you write that in a legal document.
Okay, I just
in Latin or something.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, ducit bozo.
Pituitate
bellum tuum.
Yes.
So Kentucky finally said, you know what? No. So Answers in Genesis sued, and we have a slide showing the first page of the legal papers. And the lawsuit begins, defendant Kentucky state officials discriminated against plaintiff organizations by wrongfully excluding them from Petite Tourism Development Program. Plaintiffs have been denied an incentive program because of who they are, what they believe, and how they express their beliefs, in flagrant disregard of their constitutional and statutory rights.
He keeps using that word.
Oh,
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello?
Is she frozen?
Okay. Am I?
Whoa.
Nope, she's coming back.
Okay.
Am I frozen? Am I back?
You're
Hello?
back.
You're back.
Yay!
Yes. Go.
So Ken Ham said AIG's application was rejected solely because of our religious identity and biblical messages, and the biblical messages we will present at our future life-size Noah's Ark. The lawsuit details how this action by Kentucky officials, including Governor Steve Beshear, violates federal and state law and undermines our constitutionally guaranteed religious freedom. It amounts to unlawful viewpoint discrimination against our Christian faith. Now, he seems a little confused about how religious freedom and the First Amendment work. He and his are free to believe whatever shit they want. They're free to build.
They will.
Yeah. And they're free to build money-grubbing tourist attractions to disseminate this point of view. No one's stopping them from doing that, except the people who aren't giving them money, the donors who aren't showing up. But the First Amendment does not guarantee them tax breaks to do so. It's not religious discrimination that you're not getting tax breaks for discriminatory hiring practices.
So we're not getting a benefit, and that's discrimination?
Yeah.
I don't see how that works.
Yeah. And it's all very clever about how it's not a problem with the separation of church and state for this religious institution to get tax money, but because they're a religious institution, they can discriminate. It's all very complicated. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, that lawsuit has all the stupid. But no. Answers in Genesis has even more reserves of stupid. Tomorrow is Darwin Day, commemorating the birth of Charles Darwin on February 12, 1809. The same day Abraham Lincoln was born, so let's see who gets a Google Doodle. On February 3rd this year, Jim Hines of Connecticut and others introduced House Resolution 67, which, if passed, would express support for designation of February 12, 2015 as Darwin Day and recognize the importance of science in the betterment of humanity. Now, horrified that Congress might recognize the importance of science, Ken Ham and Answers in February 12th instead be designated Darwin Was Wrong Day, which is slightly less catchy. The post on the topic features this picture, the next slide. And according to AIG's Avery Foley, those who promote Charles Darwin Day are really promoting an anti-God religion.
Oh, for...
yeah, now this is
a new tune.
Hold on. My response is, so?
Well, the important thing is, this sentence, well, not the important
I'm not
thing.
saying it's
the
true.
Funny thing.
Yeah.
This sentence immediately follows one in which he laments that many churches commemorate Darwin Day. Don't you hate all those anti-God churches?
Yeah.
And all those religious atheists?
On their lawns.
Yeah. Now, parenthetically, I'm just starting to wonder if all AIG's problems stem from language comprehension.
Yeah, the way they interpret Bibles.
They have problems, of course, much more. But it's just creationists talking. It includes the following headers: no life from non-life, no mechanism for evolution, evolution is bad science, Darwin. Celebrate Darwin Was Wrong Day. If you really want to read it for yourself, there will be a do not link in the show notes. Okay. And fun fact, the AIG, or Answers in Genesis, posted a link to NCSE without do not link. Aha.
Suckers!
Yeah. And that's it.
Fool. Wow. What a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing.
Yep. Or what words mean.
Yes. Go, I don't know, just go away. Go do something that's not so painfully to read about. Okay, so Tim, you got a thing? Uh-oh. You're muted or something. Uh-oh.
Let's see. Off. On.
Check. Oh, it says muted.
Am I on now?
You're
Yes.
on now.
There we go. Little reboot of a device. Okay, I want to talk about the food babe.
Why?
Hi.
We previously talked about the food babe in episode 111, which, interestingly enough, I discovered while prepping for tonight, was on November 12th.
Ha!
Which is an interesting day because something food babe related happened that very day, but we didn't realize it. And the reason I got on the food babe, I had no intention of writing a food babe blog post this week. I knew her book was coming out, but we've covered her before, and other people have covered her. A lot of other skeptics have debunked her, and I didn't want to get into it. But when a topic falls in your lap, and I cover technology stuff for skeptics, and she did some technology-related stuff. And it's like, I've got to blog about this. And what happened was, and we knew she was doing some technology-related things before, namely that she was deleting posts and blocking people on her Facebook and deleting Twitter posts and deleting things off her Facebook. That's all standard stuff.
And the Internet Archive, too.
Well, yeah, and that was the thing that happened on November 12th, and I had seen references to that before, but it wasn't. I hadn't planned to blog about it, but I did dig into it, and sure enough, you can find the evidence, and it's quite clear that she deliberately changed the settings on her blogs on her website on November 12th to alter it so that the Internet Archive will no longer archive any of her blog posts. And the reason is because skeptics were digging into her stuff and finding all these super crazy old blog posts from 2011 and 2012 where she said the nuttiest things. And Bob did one of them on that November episode where the airplane one where she had
the pilots are stealing all the oxygen.
Yeah, just like everything in the article was wrong. Practically. Yeah, if you put my first slide up, I've got a picture of her just to annoy everyone. So there she is.
She looks normal enough.
That's from Wikipedia. Yeah, she's a former management consultant from Charlotte, and her story is that she decided to get healthy a few years ago, and she went the all organic, route and stopped eating prepackaged manufactured food, and she just gets way into the anti-GMO, chemophobia, everything is toxic, you have to detoxify yourself, and all that crazy stuff, and she's built a brand around it, and she has a degree in computer science, and she knows how to build a website, or knows how to hire people who do, and has built a business around it. And of course, she makes quite a lot of money, or one would assume, selling things on her website through affiliate links that are ostensibly organic alternatives to everything else. And so she doesn't really like this criticism because it cuts into, presumably might cut into the money she makes off of all that. So as criticism was building against her last year, and it was kind of peaking around October and November because she had some speaking appearances where she said some anti-GMO things, and Kevin Folta from the University of Florida famously blogged about how she didn't answer questions, and then she disputed him, and there was all this criticism coming in October and November, and that was when she cut off the Internet Archive. So the thing that got me interested in blogging about it this week was she did another thing last week, and it's funny that Eve should mention Do Not Link because it affected Do Not Link. And Do Not Link, I've talked about...
No, that was being clever segue thing.
She's good. She's good. Do Not Link, I've talked about it here, is a way that if you want to post a link on social media and you don't want to give a boost to somebody who's posting horrible stuff like the Food Babe, you use Do Not Link. And what she did, and I've never seen anybody do this before, is she made a technical change on her website. And when you click a link, your web browser passes along, here's where I'm coming from. And it's just done as a convenience feature, and it's for statistical purposes. So websites can find out what percentage of their users are coming from Google, what percentage are coming from Facebook and stuff, and it's interesting and sometimes useful for marketing your website to know these things. So, and to know who's linking to you. But do not link passes the referrer along. So she made a change on her website so that if it saw a link coming in from do not link, she knew that that was a skeptic linking to her, because who else would use that to link to her site, right? And so she changed it so those links would block. And if you go to my next slide, I'll show you exactly what it would do. You would see this error message on your screen that says not authorized. Basically, you need to log in to see this page, which you can't log in because it doesn't present you the login prompt. And she was obviously doing that just to tweak us, because it prevents people from seeing her ads and seeing her products and buying anything on her site, so she's only hurting herself. Now, obviously, someone clicking a do not link link probably isn't going to buy anything. But she was doing it out of spite. Well, skeptic Mary Mangan brought it to my attention because she, I guess, had learned about do not link from my blog and said, hey, Tim, I saw this problem. She was the one who got this screenshot. What's going on here? And so I called it to the attention of the guy who built do not link, and he immediately fixed it. He immediately made a change to his code because he knows how it works and knew exactly what was happening, and he changed it so that just for foodbabe.com, when do not link goes to that site, it strips the referrer off, which is perfectly legal to do. It's just a convenience feature. It's not a required feature of the web. And in fact, there are many times that you do not get that little piece of information.
God.
And so now her server never sees do not link, and it never does this error message, and do not link works fine. So I wrote a whole blog post about how instead of actually correcting her errors, she deletes things and deletes it out of the Internet Archive and does silly stuff like this to try to spite skeptics and to keep us from coming to her website, when really all she ought to do is just apologize for her mistakes and fix them. And interestingly enough, one of the things that's going on right now, aside from the fact that her book came out yesterday, so now she's around promoting that, and she's like the #5 on Amazon and all that stuff. And there are some skeptic bloggers who went and bought it and are digging through it and finding all the nonsense in the book and blogging that. But she, in one of her responses, said that she was going to add a corrections column or a corrections feature to her website, and she put that up on January 16th, and it's been 26 days since then, and there is no corrections section on her website. But the other interesting thing that's going on right now is her current campaign is she's trying to get Kellogg's and General Mills, who make all the cereals that you see in the cereal aisle in the United States, your Fruit Loops and your Honey Toasted Oats and all that stuff.
Go to Honey Toasted Oats.
Well, whatever. She's trying to get them to remove BHT, which she claims is banned in some other country or whatever, and it's, you know,
what is
BHT? It's some sort of preservative that they put in the. Basically, they actually put it into the bag so that it kind of leaches into the thing and it keeps it from going stale or something like that.
Is it pronounced butylated?
Chemicals that helps the cereal last a little bit longer on the shelf.
Okay, just Google this. It's butylated. That's what it says to me. Butylated? Butylated.
Yeah, so.
I want to say butylated. Hydroxytoluene.
Yeah. It's something that's been used in foods for a long, long time. It's on the generally accepted as safe list from the government. There's no evidence that it's her typical fashion. She finds some chemical that sounds scary.
It's an antioxidant.
She does this campaign, and then if the manufacturer takes the thing out, then she claims credit. And apparently, I think Kellogg's is claiming that they were already phasing it out. And she's claiming they're lying and they're taking it out because she asked them to.
Oh, God.
So, but here's the interesting thing. A skeptic blogger, badsciencedebunked.wordpress.com, went through all her Amazon products and looked very carefully at what was in each one of them, and there's at least one, possibly more than one product that she sells on her website that has BHT in it. And he brought that to her attention, and she disputed it by going to the manufacturer's website and claiming that the listed ingredients. So he went one further and bought it using her website. Clicked the link right on her website, bought it, got it at his house, and took a picture of the label, and it says BHT right on the label. So who knows if she'll do anything about
so
that.
much.
Yeah.
So that's when you know someone is lying?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, God.
Yeah. So I've got a blog post that outlines all this on SkepTools, and so she's just, up to more foolishness. And all it means is, if you want one of her old articles, you're going to have to catch it when she posts it and archive it using some other means.
Yeah.
Such as, and there's many other archivers that are not blocked from her site, like Archive Today or Website or Freeze Page. Or you can just archive a copy into Evernote. There's a lot of ways to capture web pages. So it's good skeptic advice. If you see something crazy on the net that you want to debunk, make sure to get a screenshot or a capture or an archive of it so that you can show it later after it gets deleted.
Oh my God! What a piece of work she is.
Yeah.
And she's going to be something I will point out to our friends in California. Since her book is just out, she's going on a book tour, and she's going to be appearing at a number of bookstores in her own town, Charlotte. But she's also going to California in the next week. So she's going to be in Laguna Beach, and I think Mountain View. And so if you go to foodbabe.com, and it's easy to find, there's a book tour page post. So, if you want to, maybe you might want to show up at her bookstore and ask her some questions. Ask her why she's selling BHT products on her site while she's campaigning against it.
See how she freaks out.
But be nice. Be nice if you're there in person.
Yeah,
to be mean about it. Just
go up and ask her legitimate questions. I'm curious. I noticed this, and
exactly.
Watch her lose her composure, I guess, if she does. Okay, thanks, Tim, for that interesting yet depressing story. Okay, we are at 9:08. We should probably start to wrap up.
Yes.
First things first. Tim, did anybody get the trivia question?
Several people were right in the right vicinity. I think Pierre said it first. He named the book that was debunked. The Freud book was called Moses and Monotheism. It was Freud's last book that was published while he was alive.
And it's a stinker.
Yeah, it has this goofy pseudo historical theory that Moses was not a Jew, I guess, or was an Egyptian.
Yeah.
Or that there were two Moseses.
Or something.
Yeah,
it's this goofball theory.
Moses.
And Pierre also correctly identified Velikovsky wrote some stuff about it. But here's the interesting thing. Velikovsky's most famous book is Worlds in Collision, where he theorizes that the planet Venus was actually formed by a comet that spat out of Jupiter, swung by the Earth, caused the parting of the Red Sea, I think, and various other world catastrophes, and then became the planet Venus, which of course is a giant pile of nonsense.
Have you ever read that, Brian?
That book...
I have not read that, no.
Oh my gosh.
I'm putting it on my list now.
It's interesting that somebody mentioned Dianetics, because one of the interesting things out of skeptic history is Dianetics and Worlds in Collision were published in the same year, like a month apart.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
quite a year for books that skeptics need to dig into. 1950. But anyway, Worlds and Collisions started out as Velikovsky's debunking of Freud. It was originally going to be called the book called Freud and His Heroes. And when he realized that the Great Flood was a catastrophe and that there were a lot of catastrophes in old documents, he kind of got onto a giant sidetrack, and it became Worlds and Collision.
You know, the Carl Sagan once brought Velikovsky, gave him basically what he needed, which was scientific vetting and a panel.
Yep.
And he did the math about the Jupiter farting Venus, and that in order to get something so big out of the gravitational well of Jupiter, you'd have to have the energy output to like everything the sun does in a year, you know, in order to launch something Venus-sized. So Jupiter would still be burning, basically. Insane. Yeah,
the physics is terrible, and of course.
Wow.
And the reason he was fascinated with Freud is Velikovsky was a psychoanalyst by training.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is how the scientists said that the science is horrible, but I kind of like some of the Bible stuff, and then the theologians are saying, yeah, the Bible
stuff was
Yeah,
horrible, but the science was cool.
Sagan said that, right? I don't believe it.
Wow.
Really?
I don't. I hope no one's that dumb to think, oh, this sounds reasonable,
Right.
because it's not their field.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it all sounds kind of stupid.
Well, someone actually did get the videos this week. Alex Murdoch, really quickly, named left screen is Alien, and the right screen is 2001. And they're both the movie trailers, so they should be pretty easy. No one else tried. Thank you, Alex, for trying. That's apparently all I can expect every week. Let's see. We got announcements and we got book time. You guys get your books and get ready. Tim and Barb have recent posts on Insight without an S at skeptic.com. Go check them out. The new Craig Silverman Toast Center report released yesterday. Lies, damn lies, and viral content. That's in quotes.
Yep, that's what it's called.
Tim in several places, as well as Sharon Hill, Ben Radford, Robert Todd Carroll, and of course, James Randi.
Yep.
I saw that link. I haven't read it yet. It looks interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in it.
Yeah. Bob, Eve, and Emerita. Virtual Skeptic Sharon Hill will be speaking at the Skeptic Classroom Symposium on March 6th and 7th in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Flagstaff.
The link to that and the lanyard link will be in the show notes.
Yeah, and if you haven't ever noticed, there's a thing on the right side of our blog that says, see us in person. And anything where we're going to be speaking or attending or whatever, we try to keep it in there. So if you ever want to go to an event, and there's already 4 events in there this year.
And you could possibly meet us.
You could meet us.
Talk to us, and we might say something to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lucky you.
Yeah, scary concept, especially in the case of Bob.
I know.
So if you're trying to avoid us, that would also be a good place.
It might actually.
Yes, if you want to avoid us, don't go to those hotels on those dates.
Okay, so book time.
Yep.
Who wants to go first?
I got one.
Go for it, Tim.
Which brings us to part 3 of Freud and his heroes. When Velikovsky set off for his sabbatical, he had not yet determined his approach to the all-important conclusion, the refutation of the Egyptian Moses, and he set himself to the task during the 8 months he traveled almost every day from Riverside Drive to the New York Public Library on Fifth Avenue. In April 1940, he came across a reference to the Dead Sea as being geologically recent. It immediately occurred to him that it might have been created in a catastrophe. The rest, as they say, was history. As he wrote to French archaeologist Claude Schaeffer in 1958, quote, "This was the most fruitful idea of my life, when in the spring of 1940 I realized that the Exodus took place amidst a natural catastrophe." He began following the trail of documents, and in a book on the Hyksos, a foreign people who invaded Egypt and devastated it before leaving centuries later, he found a reference to a papyrus composed by an Egyptian sage named Ippur that recounted a series of catastrophes. The translation of this papyrus, Ippur, which was to prove so important to Velikovsky, was not in the public library stacks, so he took his first trip to the library at Columbia University, closer to his home, and he looked it up there. Freud and His Heroes was abandoned, or rather, completely transformed into a different book.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
That's what I got.
Eve. Ready?
Yes. Another distinction folklorists make is between standard urban legends that are widely told among a diverse population and other equally bizarre stories that circulate mostly among fringe groups, often in the first person. In this category would go the stories of Bigfoot, lake monsters, UFOs, alien abductions, cattle mutilations, satanic cults, conspiracies, the Bermuda Triangle, Elvis sightings, and so forth. There's
Dogs
plenty
and
of
cats
supernaturalism involved
together.
in such stories, rich material for folklorists to investigate, but the style, content, and function are clearly different from the typical urban legend. Furthermore, such topics are exploited in the media, so that it's difficult to say where oral tradition and mass media treatments diverge.
Bob?
Social pressure, conformity, and attitude change are bread and butter issues for social psychology, and small group dynamics are ideal situations in which to study such processes. However, the garden variety group influences examined by social psychologists rarely find their way into the cult debate. On the one hand, they do not serve the purposes of anti-cultists who are intent on making the case for cultic mind control. On the other hand, defenders of religious liberty are so focused on demonstrating the presence of free will among members of controversial religions that they tend to gloss over the question of the other, less noble social dynamics found within such groups.
Textbook?
Nope.
We live in a strange and wonderful universe. Its age, size, violence, and beauty require extraordinary imagination to appreciate. The place we humans hold within this vast cosmos can seem pretty insignificant. And so we try to make sense of it all and to see how we fit in. Some decades ago, a well-known scientist, some say it was Bertrand Russell, gave a public lecture on astronomy. He described how the Earth orbits around the Sun and how the Sun, in turn, orbits around the center of the vast collection of stars called our galaxy. At this end of the lecture, a little old lady at the back of the room got up and said, "What you have told us is rubbish. The world is really a flat plate supported on the back of a giant turtle." The scientist gave a superior smile before replying, "What is the turtle standing on?" "You're a very clever young man, very clever," said the old lady, "but it's turtles all the way down." What's your book, Tim?
My book is a Kindle book, and I should have gotten the cover up. I've used it before. The Pseudoscience Wars, about the Velikovsky affair.
Yeah.
So it's got the
That's
whole
a good
history.
one. That's a good book.
It's a good book, heavily footnoted.
Who wrote that?
A guy by the name of Michael D. Gordon.
Okay. I can put that on my list as well.
It's very good.
Eve.
Mine is Too Good to Be True, the Colossal Book of Urban Legends by Jan Harold Brunvand.
It's not very colossal on that tablet.
No, it's not.
No, it's kind of sort of small colossal. Mini colossal.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mine is Cults Reference Handbook, 2nd edition, by
So it's
James
not a
Marble.
textbook, clearly.
Well, okay, kind of. It's a...
Cults and how to form one.
Yes.
Basically, no, actually, I have
Does it
students.
have a how-to list?
I have students tonight who are reading How to Be a Cult Leader.
Ooh.
So yeah, by Anthony
Yeah.
Prakanis. This is from his book Propaganda and Persuasion.
It's good to know I'm not the only one with world domination plans on this podcast.
The cults and the robots, Eve and I
Yeah,
are in
know.
trouble.
If you need to, we should collaborate. Mine, this is a story that probably a lot of us know. And I didn't, I'm rereading this because I read it a long time ago. But you should probably know this book as well. And the reason I'm reading is because I saw the movie recently, A Theory of Everything, which is the supposed history of Stephen Hawking.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which was very good. It was a very good movie, and it seemed to correspond to a documentary that I saw not too long ago, which I don't know, maybe it's based on the same source material. I don't know, but this is his briefer history of time, which is one of the best-selling books on the planet, I guess. So I don't know the exact statistics, but there you go. And even it doesn't have a clear reference of where that quote came from. The turtle's all the way down. So there you go. Is that it? Is that everything? Did we do everything we needed to do this week? Any more questions in the thing, and no more things?
You can't get me to do anything else.
What?
Can't get me to do anything else.
You want to do something else?
No.
You gonna dance, or you gonna? I don't know. Never
Ask
mind.
nicely, I might dance.
This is when we dance. I'm going to put the logo up. Thank you guys for watching. There's the music. Bob is dancing right now. Please. There we go. Versal Skeptics. This is an independent production of What'sTheHarm.net, Skeptic Humanities, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Doubtful News. Our logo is designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and our theme music is by Music Can't and used with permission.